Welcome to the Divorce Podcast, where we explore relationships, divorce, separation, and parenting apart. This episode is part of our new mini-series where we answer your questions and share practical bite-sized tips. I'm your host, Kate Daly, a relationship counsellor, divorce specialist, and co-founder of Amicable, the online legal service for separating couples. In the previous episode of the Divorce Podcast, we spoke to Kate Campbell about navigating intimacy when living together post-separation. In this episode, we wanted to delve deeper into another common challenge when it comes to sex and relationships: infidelity. What is it? Why is it? Why does it happen? And what can you do about it afterwards? And I will warn you that this episode contains sexual references, so you might want to listen out of earshot of any children. So let's start by defining infidelity. Well, I think therein lies the problem. We all have different ideas of what constitutes being unfaithful. And that's part of the conversation, realistically, we need to have with partners so that we can check we're on the same page. Infidelity doesn't necessarily mean having sex with somebody, despite what Bill Clinton might want to say. It really is about whether or not you've broken the trust between you. And that could be an emotional affair, or it could be sexting, it could be texting, it could be finding comfort in somebody else that isn't your lifelong partner. So infidelity isn't just as simple as having sex with somebody else or snogging somebody else. It can mean a whole variety of different things to different people. The prevalence of infidelity then, research sort of indicates that approximately 20% of men and 13% of women, so yes, there is a gender difference, have been unfaithful to their spouses. And when you sort of crunch all those numbers down, it roughly suggests that around 15 to 20% of marriages experience infidelity. So that's like 1 in 5. That's quite a lot of people who will experience this in their relationship life. And it's fair to say there is a gender difference. Men are more likely to engage in sexual infidelity, to have an affair that ends in sex, and women are more likely to have an emotional affair and to seek kind of that love and understanding outside of their main relationship. Since no-fault divorce has come into this country, it's been a lot more tricky to actually work out how many people are impacted in any great detail. Adultery used to be one of the reasons that you could cite in a divorce, but not anymore. We have no-fault divorce. But when you could cite different reasons, around 10% of divorces were down to adultery as far as the stats were concerned. But research in America actually suggests that it's a lot higher than this. And big studies have shown that around 20 to 40% of divorces in any given year are actually as a result of infidelity. So it seems that it's quite a big problem. And as we are living longer and marriages are getting longer, or the possibility of staying with somebody is getting longer, then it's perhaps not surprising that people seek alternatives outside their main relationship more often. But studies have shown that over 60 to 75% of couples where infidelity has occurred actually end up sticking and remaining together. So even if infidelity is an issue within your relationship, it doesn't have to mean the end of the relationship itself. Now, that could be for very positive reasons, people perhaps going to counselling or speaking to each other and really working out what's going wrong in the relationship and doing something about it. But also there are other factors that mean people stay together. That might be fear of being alone. It might be fear of a financial future that you can't conceive of. So those things also play into this. And sometimes it's just pure habit. So there are lots of reasons why people stay together, some positive, some not so. What are the different types of infidelity then? Because infidelity can take many forms. We've talked a little bit, haven't we, about the fact it might be sexting, it might be an emotional affair. But there are some different types of infidelity that occur too. And that can be things from it being a serial problem. So for some cheating occurs when one person doesn't have the same relationship with honesty and truthfulness that the other person does, and they're a serial cheater. They'll have cheated in previous relationships and they will cheat in future relationships as well. So it's less to do with the relationship quality itself, and it's much more focused on that individual. So where a serial cheating relationship occurs, it's usually down to one person's personality, and it can have become a lifestyle for people as well. So just something they have become habituated to, are used to, and so no longer see a problem with. They might even be quite surprised, if you're on the other end of it, if you express shock and upset about it. So serial cheating is a problem. And it's really, if you find that you're ending up with a serial cheater, that's definitely a relationship to avoid. Other types of infidelity occur when one person believes that the relationship is over, but they don't have the courage or the wherewithal to actually sit down and tell you that the relationship is over. And so they indulge in ongoing affairs, hoping that somehow you will find out and learn for yourself that the relationship is over, which leaves them not having to have that awkward and difficult conversation. So infidelity can be a way of ending a relationship. And we often find this where there are long-term relationships and somebody just hasn't got the words or can't conceive of talking to their long-term partner about dissatisfaction within the marriage. The other kind of infidelity is the one-off incident. Now, this is often a combination of setting, of alcohol, or being with somebody that you already find attractive. So often these kind of one-off affairs occur through workplaces or social groups where you've already spent quite a bit of time with somebody. So a one-off incident is often where you've got nothing wrong with the relationship, but you are essentially tempted outside of it. And this is where counseling and therapy can be at its most effective in trying to get relationships back on track. And seeing this as a symptom of something that's wrong in the relationship is often a good way of trying to frame it if you're interested in trying to get the relationship back on track and if you want to save the relationship. So, what happens after an affair? What are the tips and what can you do if you've been unfaithful or your partner has been unfaithful to you? Well, perhaps the key thing is to be really honest. Something big has happened, something bad has happened. This is the time to take a long, hard look at yourself and your partner and to have a frank conversation about what has happened. Now, obviously, when you find out about an affair, the temptation is to feel very hard done by and to be very accusatory and very upset, to point the finger of blame and to really let the other person know how you're feeling. That's perfectly natural. But if you're looking at this and you're thinking about ways to move on, those conversations, whilst natural, aren't going to help and move things on. So the key here is to try and create a space, whether that's in therapy or whether that's just the two of you, to actually have a conversation to examine the relationship. Now, this leads into the second of the tips, being patient. It might take quite a while to get to a point where you can create the circumstances to have that kind of honest conversation. So not feeling rushed and taking some time to process it individually, as well as trying to get together to have the conversation, is absolutely key. It might be that you don't feel you can ever get the relationship back on track, and that's fine too. But being patient with yourself and with the other person so that they can really truly explore what they want and what's right for them is absolutely crucial if you stand any chance of getting this back on track. It's important to remember none of us owes forgiveness to anyone. We're not obligated to forgive and to forget. We're not obligated to move on. The decision that you make about whether or not you want to continue in the relationship is your decision, and it's perfectly valid. The final thing is to try and keep an open mind. There's no right or wrong in this. There's no magic formula or answer as to whether a relationship is likely to survive. And you certainly can't go into forgiveness or trying again with wanting the absolute cast iron guarantee that this will never happen again, because none of us can say that or do that. But it is important to remember that you can survive infidelity, but rebuilding trust takes time and work for both of you. And really what you're trying to assess is whether or not your partner is up for putting the work in and up for making changes. And that goes for whether you're on the giving or receiving end of the infidelity. If something has gone wrong with a relationship, then both people have to keep an open mind and be willing to make the changes. Hopefully you found this mini episode with a deep dive into infidelity interesting. If you need some help or you want to talk about this more, then for separating and co-parenting support, you can visit Amicable at our website, amicable.co.uk, where you can find and explore our resources, or you can book a free advice consultation. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find out more about new podcast episodes by subscribing for updates and visiting thedivorcepodcast.com or finding us on your favourite listening platform. And finally, we'd love to know how we can help you further. So please share your questions on divorce, separation and co-parenting with us at hello@amicable.co.uk. You never know, they might find their way onto the next episode of the Divorce Podcast. Thanks for listening.